Luna Grant paused at the grand entrance of Le Chateau, her nerves prickling beneath her simple blouse and worn skirt. The heavy oak doors loomed before her, gleaming brass handles reflecting the soft glow of crystal chandeliers inside. This was a world far removed from her usual haunts, an elegant palace of indulgence where the guests whispered futures of finance and fame. Yet tonight was her choice, a small celebration for surviving another challenging year, a quiet victory she intended to mark on her own terms. She took a deep breath, clutching a modest bouquet of lilies, a token she had picked up on a whim. Luna's shy eyes flickered as she stepped inside, immediately feeling the curious stares of impeccably dressed diners. The polished marble floors echoed softly as she moved forward, every step pulling at her anxiety like a taut wire. A tall figure approached, his posture rigid and controlled. The maître d', with a sharp gaze and a carefully poised demeanor, scrutinized Luna from head to toe. His tailored suit rippled with a practiced grace, but his smile was a thinly veiled smirk. "Dinner for one?" he asked, his voice laced with a subtle mockery that cut through the ambient hum. Luna's fingers tightened around the bouquet. "Yes, just for me," she replied softly, hoping her words didn't betray her discomfort. The maître d' raised an eyebrow, casting a glance at her attire, then at the empty seat opposite her. "You do know this is a place for special occasions, perhaps it's best to come with company next time." Luna swallowed, a flush rising to her cheeks, but she nodded politely, turning to seat herself. As the maître d' strode away, a slight murmur rippled among nearby tables, eyes darting between Luna and the carefully curated world she had dared to enter. Luna settled into her seat with a delicate grace, trying to calm the sudden surge of embarrassment that spread like wildfire through her chest. She took a sip of water, the coolness calming her slightly, but the weight of the maître d's gaze lingered in the pit of her stomach. As she unfolded the menu, her fingers trembling faintly, Luna couldn't help but notice the subtle shift in the air. The maître d' had made his remarks with such veiled disdain that it was clear many of the staff and even some diners had caught on. The delicate clinking of cutlery and hushed conversations seemed to adopt a softer, more scrutinizing tone, as if her very presence was an entertainment or a puzzling anomaly. A young server approached her table cautiously, balancing a tray with practiced ease. He smiled nervously. "Good evening, ma'am. May I take your order?" Luna glanced down at the menu, a slight frown knitting her brows. The choices, while exquisite, felt overwhelming, not just in flavor, but in the price listed beside each dish, a silent reminder that she didn't belong here. Finally, she settled on a modest grilled salmon and a side of seasonal vegetables, trying to keep her order simple and unobtrusive. "Very good, ma'am," the server replied, though his eyes flickered briefly toward the maître d' stationed near the entrance. As the server retreated, Luna found herself the subject of a few more glances. Some were curious, others judgmental. She imagined a few whispers behind gloved hands, perhaps speculating on why a woman so plainly dressed dared to dine alone in such an extravagant place. The maître d' reappeared with a polished tray topped with a glass of sparkling water. He set it before Luna with a flourish that bordered on mockery and lowered his voice just enough for her to hear. "We prefer our guests to be, more appropriately accompanied, Miss Grant. Perhaps if you were not so conspicuous, you wouldn't attract so much unwanted attention." The use of her name startled Luna. No one had called her by it yet, especially not in such a cold tone. How did he know that? Her cheeks burned with a flush deeper than before. I'm here to enjoy a quiet meal," she said, voice barely steady over the din. "Indeed," he replied smoothly. "Enjoy it, then, while you can." With that, he swept away, leaving a silence that pressed heavily on Luna's shoulders. The server returned a few moments later, but this time his approach was more hesitant, and the service grew slower and less attentive. The warm smile earlier was replaced by brief nods, his eyes darting nervously toward the maître d'. It was clear there was an unspoken command in the air. Luna struggled to keep her composure, clutching the stem of her wineglass as the waiter set it before her. It was the smallest of humiliations, being treated like an uninvited guest in a place she had dared to enter legitimately. Nearby tables seemed to lean in slightly toward their companions, whispering softly, the murmured tones perceptible enough to unsettle her. At one table, a group of well-dressed women exchanged pointed looks. Luna caught fragments of their conversation about poor social judgment and the inappropriate choice to dine alone. Another couple glanced her way with thinly veiled disbelief, their faces flickering through expressions of condescension and discomfort. A gentle touch interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Luna glanced up to see Marianne, a friend from a neighboring table who had noticed her earlier unease and insisted on joining despite Luna's protests. "Luna, you don't have to face this alone," Marianne said quietly, taking the seat opposite her. "No, Marianne," Luna replied, shaking her head. "I want to do this myself. It's not about the company, it's about proving I can." Marianne's eyes softened, but she respected the decision. "Just know I'm nearby." As the meal progressed, Luna focused on the delicate flavors of her salmon, each bite a small rebellion against the judgment around her. Still, as the maître d' reappeared to check on the tables, his eyes flicked pointedly toward her, his posture carrying the same dismissive air. At one point, he deliberately lingered near the kitchen doors, his presence radiating a silent message: she was an anomaly, a misfit in this polished world. Despite the mounting discomfort, Luna found a quiet resolve growing within. If they saw only the surface, the clothes, the solitude, then perhaps it was time to let another part of her story speak without words. Suddenly, the restaurant's hushed murmur dipped into silence as the chef himself appeared at the entrance to the dining room. Clad in the crisp whites of his profession, his presence was commanding yet composed, moving with a quiet authority that seemed to draw the attention of every guest. He walked with steady steps toward Luna's table, each movement measured with calm purpose. The maître d' noticed immediately, his confident posture faltering for a moment as their eyes met briefly. The chef stopped in front of Luna, nodded politely, then bent gracefully to one knee beside her chair. A collective breath seemed to be held throughout the room, the tension palpable. "I hope the meal has suited you," he said quietly, eyes meeting hers with warmth and quiet respect. Before Luna could respond, the maître d' cleared his throat, but the chef raised a hand gently to interrupt. "There is something you should know. Luna Grant is not merely a guest here, she is my wife, and the silent co-owner of this establishment." The words hung in the air, resonating through the room like a soft but undeniable chord. A ripple of surprise and confusion swept through the diners, their earlier judgments now fragile and uncertain. The maître d's face drained of color, his usual smugness disappearing as he stared, momentarily unmoored. Luna's heart pounded fast, but there was no embarrassment now, only a quiet triumph lighting her eyes. The shy woman in simple clothes was no outsider, she held a claim here, quietly yet irrefutably. Marianne squeezed her hand, the gesture full of shared pride and relief. As the diners processed the revelation, the chatter resumed, softer now, tinged with admiration rather than judgment. Luna sat straighter, buoyed by the truth no longer hidden. It seemed that the dinner, once a simple act of self-affirmation, was unfolding into something far richer, a reassessment of assumptions, and perhaps, a beginning. What would happen next in this unexpected turn of events? How would the maître d' respond to the shift in power every eye had just witnessed? Luna's journey was only just beginning, and the world around her was watching. The room remained suspended in a precarious silence as the weight of the chef's revelation settled over the gathering. Luna felt the searing heat of 1,000 gazes locked upon her, yet it was not the heat of judgment now, it was curiosity, respect, perhaps even admiration. She held the chef's steady gaze, finding a quiet strength mirrored in his dark eyes. The maître d' took a step back, his carefully constructed facade cracking. The arrogance that had once marked his every movement now faltered, replaced by an uncertain tension. I wasn't aware," the maître d' stammered, his voice losing its previous confidence. "Well, Miss Grant, it's quite unusual to keep such a connection private." The chef's expression tightened. There are many reasons for discretion, he replied evenly. What matters here is respect, for the guests, the staff, and each other. Something that, I'm afraid, was lacking tonight. Luna's gaze drifted toward the server who had attended her earlier. His shoulders sagged slightly, a mask of embarrassment crossing his features. The maître d' had clearly directed the staff's treatment of her, a tacit command that underscored a toxic undervaluing of her presence. Behind Luna, a few diners whispered among themselves, their voices low but charged with reflection. Some exchanged brief nods, acknowledging the injustice they had unknowingly witnessed. Others turned their heads, cheeks blooming with a softened complexion of regret. Luna's heart churned in conflicting tides, a blend of triumph and unease. It thrilled her to see the tide turn, yet a lingering ache whispered that she had never deserved to experience that humiliation in the first place. The chef rose, moving to stand beside her. He spoke with quiet authority. Luna has been an unseen force behind the success of this restaurant. Her vision, her judgment, her resilience, they are woven into every corner of Le Chateau. Today, I am proud to share this truth with you. A murmur of approval swelled among the guests, some clapping discreetly, others simply smiling in genuine respect. Luna's modest demeanor had concealed a powerful partnership, silently vital. The maître d' swallowed hard, his demeanor shifting from indignation to reluctant acceptance. His eyes flickered away from Luna's calm resolve, settling on the chef's firm stance. Of course, the maître d' muttered, voice barely above the hum of the room, it is imperative we maintain the highest standards. But those standards include kindness, the chef said firmly. And judgment has no place at our tables. Luna absorbed these words, the chef's defense like a balm to wounds inflicted by prejudice. Yet beneath her composed exterior, small doubts began to nibble away at her confidence. Had her quiet nature made her invisible, even to those closest? Had she unknowingly allowed others to shape her worth in their eyes? Marianne leaned close, whispering, "You're stronger than you realize." Luna nodded, appreciating the encouragement but knowing resilience often came from confronting vulnerabilities head-on. With each breath, she felt the weight of years of quiet endurance lifting, replaced by a burgeoning belief in her own voice. The maître d' turned on his heels and moved away, his posture stiff but measured now, a tacit acknowledgement of his misstep. Luna could feel the room's atmosphere subtly shift, expectation now hung heavy, charged with the promise of change. The chef gestured toward the kitchen where soft clinks and the warm glow of copper pots whispered that life teemed beyond the polished dining room. Tonight, we honor not only the guests but those whose efforts often go unseen. With a nod, a server approached Luna's table and laid down a small card, composition elegant in script, a special dish created in honor of Luna Grant. The server's eyes held a newfound warmth. Luna's fingers trembled as she read the brief message. It was an invisible thread tying her place in this sophisticated tapestry with the acknowledgement she had long craved. Moments passed as she absorbed this gesture, feeling it resonate deep within. The room's eyes no longer weighed her down but lifted her up. Marianne reached for her hand once more. "See? They finally see you." Luna's smile was gentle but resolute. "Yes, but I want this to be about more than just being seen." A sense of quiet expectation filled the space between her words, an unspoken hope that the recognition would spark lasting change, not just for her but for anyone too often overlooked. The chef returned to Luna's side, his presence steady and unwavering. "You've faced enough," he said softly. "Tomorrow, let's make sure no one else has to." Luna's thoughts lingered on the nuances of power, how easily it could be wielded or withheld, how fragile the line was between esteem and dismissal. Her role as silent co-owner, a partnership woven from love and shared dreams, had shielded her from the spotlight. Yet she recognized now the importance of stepping forward, of allowing her presence to challenge assumptions rather than quietly confirming them. As the special dish arrived, a beautifully composed plate adorned with seasonal colors and subtle aroma, the diners watched as Luna lifted her fork with newfound confidence. The flavors danced on her palate with hints of reassurance and renewal. Around her, the murmurs softened into appreciative whispers, smiles blooming where skepticism had once resided. Luna felt the stirrings of transformation, both within and around her. The dinner that had begun as a private victory had evolved into a public declaration that quiet strength, dignity, and resilience deserved both acknowledgement and celebration. Yet, beneath her triumph, a shadow of doubt lingered, an echo of the challenges still ahead. Would the maître d's deference persist, or would old habits resume behind polished masks? Could she truly redefine her place in this ornate world, not just as co-owner but as an emblem of quiet power? As the evening wound on, Luna's mind reeled with these questions, her resolve deepening with each passing moment. Marianne gave a knowing smile. "What do you think will happen next?" Luna met her friend's gaze, eyes steady and clear. "I don't know. But I'm ready to find out." The atmosphere in Le Chateau had shifted. The usual polished elegance, while still present, was now infused with a subtle tension, as if everyone were holding their breath, waiting for what was to come. Luna sat quietly, feeling the soft weight of the chef's presence beside her, a silent pillar of support. The restaurant was alive with whispers and the fluttering of curious eyes, but there was also a steadiness in the glance shared between Luna and her husband. It was as if a quiet storm had broken through the glamour, and the air was charged with potential. The maître d', having retreated to the back of the room after his initial awkward exchange, was now pacing near the service area. His usual assured composure was slipping, replaced by a flicker of frustration that did not go unnoticed by the staff. His precise footsteps echoed unevenly on the marble floor, a subtle sign that he was grappling with the upheaval. With a firm voice, the chef called the maître d' over, halting his restless stride. The two men stood close, voices lowered but firm enough for certain attentive diners to catch fragments. "Your conduct tonight was unacceptable," the chef stated plainly. "This establishment is more than its appearance or the company one keeps." The maître d' masked his discomfort with a shallow nod. "I was only maintaining standards. It's crucial for this place's reputation." "Standards without respect are empty," the chef replied, eyes unwavering. "Luna has been not only a partner but the heart behind many of those standards. It's time this was recognized, from top to bottom." The maître d' glanced around, noting the curious eyes fixed on him, and swallowed his pride. He inclined his head slightly, an uncomfortable concession. The message was clear: change was coming, whether he liked it or not. Meanwhile, the diners, still absorbed in the unfolding drama, turned toward Luna's table as the chef beckoned toward the kitchen. From the shadows of the culinary domain emerged an assistant chef carrying a plate with artistic finesse, a dish specially prepared as a tribute to Luna. It was a delicate piece of culinary art, vibrant with textures and subtle hints of flavors that spoke of care, passion, and craftsmanship. Luna's eyes widened momentarily, touched by the gesture far beyond any simple meal. The plate seemed to silently acknowledge who she was, transcending the initial judgments cast her way. As she took a gentle bite, the room's murmurs softened into quiet applause. Those who once whispered doubts now exchanged looks of approval. Long-held biases quietly folded back under the weight of a shared realization: the woman before them was more than appearances, she was an essence of strength and partnership. Unexpectedly, the maître d' stepped forward, clearing his throat. His tone was measured but carried a note of humility. "Miss Grant, I owe you an apology for my earlier behavior and my failure to recognize the vital role you play here." Luna regarded him with steady eyes. The hurt from earlier flickered momentarily, but she recognized the sincerity behind his words. "Thank you," she said softly. "Respect is the foundation of all hospitality." The maître d' nodded, stepping back into a less imposing role. The shift in his demeanor, though not complete, was a sign that the walls of pride and prejudice were beginning to crumble. For Luna, this moment was more than a personal victory, it was a subtle yet powerful turning point. She had been underestimated, ignored, yet the truth had emerged without fanfare or confrontation, simply through quiet grace and undeniable presence. As the last light of the evening softened, the chef took Luna's hand, and together they addressed the room. "We believe in a restaurant where every voice matters, where kindness guides our service and where judgment has no place at our tables," he said, his tone calm but resolute. The diners responded with warm smiles and appreciative nods, their earlier skepticism now replaced with respect. Luna allowed herself a small smile, savoring the moment of vindication but aware that this was just the beginning. Marianne leaned toward her once again, whispering, "You've changed everything tonight." "Yes," Luna replied, "but the real work starts now. It's up to all of us to keep that change alive." Her thoughts were a whirl of hope tempered by realism, knowing that old attitudes do not fade overnight. Yet empowered by the events unfolding, Luna felt ready to embrace her role openly, not just as a silent partner but as a guiding presence who could shape the soul of Le Chateau. As she looked around the room, the gentle spark of mutual understanding glimmered in the eyes of the guests and staff alike. The journey ahead would not be without challenges, but this dinner, born from her quiet determination to celebrate alone, had ignited a profound transformation. What might the next chapter hold? Would the maître d' embrace this new direction fully, or would shadows of the past linger behind polite smiles? As Luna and the chef stood united amid the soft glow of the chandeliers, the room seemed to hold its breath once more, this time, in anticipation of a future written not by appearances or assumptions but by respect, courage, and partnership. Have you ever witnessed or experienced a moment where quiet strength shifted the course of events unexpectedly? Often, change begins in the most unassuming places. The restaurant hummed softly as the evening drew toward its close. Evening light faded from the tall windows, replaced by the warm, golden glow of chandeliers and flickering candles on each table. The ambience was exquisite, yet beneath the surface lay a newfound sense of quiet transformation rippling through the space. Luna sat comfortably beside her husband, the chef, feeling a peaceful strength nestled in the core of herself. She had entered Le Chateau timid and uncertain, face reddened by the maître d's earlier dismissive attitude. But now, she radiated quiet confidence, a testament not just to the truth revealed but to the recognition she earned through patience and unwavering dignity. As she raised her voice softly to address the gathered staff, guests, and friends who lingered, respect gathered naturally in the room. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Luna began, her tone warm yet sure. "This evening has reminded me how important it is for kindness to shape our interactions, for humility to guide our judgments, and for unseen efforts to be honored." Her gaze swept the room, lingering affectionately on the staff. "Every hand that crafts the meals, every smile that welcomes a guest, is part of what makes this place special." She paused, breathing deeply, feeling the weight of her words settle in the hearts present. It's easy to judge on appearances or assumptions, but true strength is found in respect for one another, in the courage to embrace vulnerability. A ripple of appreciative murmurs passed through the crowd. Luna's sincere reflections resonated beyond surface niceties. They challenged her listeners to reconsider their own perceptions and extend grace where it was often withheld. To her left, Marianne smiled proudly. The friend's support had been a steady current under Luna's tentative steps. The maître d' stood quietly, his expression softer now, humbled by the evening's revelations. Gone was the condescending mask. He seemed to carry a new, genuine respect, the first step in shedding ingrained arrogance. The chef took Luna's hand tenderly and squeezed it before offering a toast. To partnership, seen and unseen, spoken and silent. To welcoming each person with dignity, no matter their story. Glasses lifted, clinked gently, and the room exhaled in a symphony of shared hope. As the last guests began to take their leave, Luna glanced around the dining room, now more than ever a place where barriers softened and understanding blossomed. The experience had revealed that sometimes the most profound victories are quiet ones, those carved out through patience, resilience, and kindness rather than loud confrontation. The maître d' approached Luna toward the doorway, offering a sincere smile. "Miss Grant, I cannot apologize enough for my earlier behavior. You have my deepest respect. Luna met his glance with grace. Thank you. I hope we all continue to grow. He inclined his head, acknowledgement shining in his eyes, and quietly walked away, no longer the obstacle but an ally in the restaurant's evolving story. Together, Luna and the chef stepped outside into the cool evening air. The city's lights twinkled softly around them as they shared a comfortable silence. I never wanted you to carry this weight alone, the chef said softly. You are the soul of this place. Luna smiled, warmth filling her chest. Sometimes, I needed to find that strength inside myself. They stood together beneath the night sky, partners in life and business, their bond strengthened by trials and triumphs. If Luna's journey has inspired you to embrace your own quiet power and challenge unfair judgments with grace, share your thoughts below. Your stories matter too. And if this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more tales of resilience and redemption. See you in our next story.